All right, in this video, I'm going to show you the framework that I use to build marketing strategies. I built multi-million-dollar marketing strategies that have generated 8 figures in revenue for lots and lots and lots of companies. Background on me, started a marketing agency, sold that company, started another marketing agency, built some other businesses, yada, yada, yada. I've done a thing or two in this marketing and business world, so I can share with you how I do this and how you can think about this for your own company. It's not the I like to demystify things. I don't want people to feel like, oh my goodness, this is so difficult and hard to understand that I feel like I have no idea what's going on in the world of marketing for my company, right? I want you to understand things about marketing so that you can get good at recognizing when there's a good marketing strategy being, performed by somebody maybe you're hiring, or if it's not a good strategy and you should maybe get rid of them. Okay, so restoration marketing funnel. Okay, so this is the most basic way to think about this. Is you have awareness, consideration, decision. You have the top of funnel, you have the middle of the funnel, you have the bottom of the funnel. Okay, so top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of the funnel. This basically means that top of the funnel awareness. Usually, people are problem aware. They might know that they have the problem, but they don't know about the solution. Okay, the middle of the funnel. This is more people who are solution aware. They know the solution to their problem, but they're kind of shopping around. Now, the bottom of the funnel, this is the decision making time. This is the close. This is the conversion. This is where somebody knows that you are the solution to their problem. Okay. They know that they have a problem, but don't know the solution. They know that they have a solution, but they don't know about you as the solution. And here they know you as the solution. That is the most basic way to think about top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of the funnel. Okay. Now, you have to bridge that in the world of restoration. You have to bridge that against your different services, okay? Because it will change depending on which service here a little bit, and for the most part it'll be mostly the same, but I'll kind of break it down here. Now, with water damage, we now have to think through with this funnel. Really what this whole thing represents is your customer's journey, the journey that they go through to make a decision to give you money, right? And so with water damage, think through the customer journey with me. Susie, she gets home, she walks into her house, there's a couple inches of water, and she's going, oh my goodness, this is terrible. What do I do? I've never had this happen before in my life. Susie is not in a state of mind where she's going, oh my goodness, this is finally the day where I get to remember that Instagram ad I saw 4 years ago where I wrote down the person's number and I saved it in a speed dial on my phone. And now I get to call that water mitigation company that I've always wanted to call. Oh my goodness, it's finally that. No, that is not happening. Okay. Could that possibly maybe happen? Sure. But I wouldn't put money into that strategy as something that's predictable, consistent, and scalable, right? You want something that is predictable, consistent, and scalable as much as possible, even though that those three boxes are hard to check in this industry, the nature of emergency service. So with water damage, knowing that the customer journey is somebody walks into their home, they don't know what to do, it is a confusing time. And we're talking about the residential side, right? Commercial is going to be a little bit different here. The person who's going to get the phone call before you do is going to probably be some other professional. Maybe it's the plumber that's, they've used before to unclog the drain. Maybe they're just putting two and two together for as much as they see, and they go, oh my goodness, there's water running everywhere. I need to get a plumber in here quickly to turn off all this water, right? Make sure it stops running. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Maybe they're thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot of damage here. I have no idea. I'm new to the area. I just bought this house. Oh, let me call the realtor that sold me this house, right? Or the builder who built this house. Or let me call the insurance company because there's a lot of damage here. I need to figure out what's going on, and how to get some help here. There's, depending on how the water damage is caused, maybe it's the sprinkler system that somehow malfunctioned, is pouring in from the garage into the home and, flooding it up, right? So they might call their landscaper, the irrigation company, right? there's different people that are going to call for water damage. A lot of times, around 80% of all jobs in this industry flow through some type of intermediary, meaning somebody who has their hand on the job before you do, right? To get them to directly call you would mean that you need a hyper aware market, a hyper aware customer, somebody who's going, oh my goodness, I'm having a water emergency. I now know that I need to call XYZ water mitigation company because I'm just trained to do that in my brain. However, that's just not really something that happens. And the problem with it is, some people have come up with ideas like, oh, maybe we just run mass marketing campaigns where we educate homeowners to know what to do when they have water damage. Well, you know, not not every homeowner's ever even going to have water damage in their lifetime. And a lot of people, us as human beings, are the way our brains are kind of wired is we're not sitting there going, yes, I need to remember something that might be important. Maybe one day that might never happen. Maybe it does, but I need to remember this and this is important. That's not how our brains work. Our brains want to remember things that are important. Okay. They, and we know that they're important and they're probably going to happen. We have to remember them sooner rather than later, right? We don't remember things for something that might never happen, potentially, maybe, who knows, right? And this is the reason why running ads on like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Pinterest, I don't even know if people still use that or whatever it might be, social media advertising, running ads or putting out reels, right? That strategy is not a customer acquisition strategy where somebody's going to go, oh my goodness, I've just learned that XYZ restoration company offers water damage services and I might have that next year, maybe potentially, so I'm therefore going to save that phone number and hopefully remember them. Okay, it is not a really good direct response customer acquisition campaign. That would fall into a branding campaign, meaning this is where the long money goes. Okay, this is where, you know, if you're at a company and you're at the level where you've got probably usually around $5 million a year, okay, in revenue, and you've got a really good reserve built up, and you've got budgets that you can deploy, probably, multiple six figures into marketing every year at least, right? This is going to be where you can say, oh, I can allocate a little portion of this budget now to doing branding campaigns, long-term awareness campaigns, because this type of strategy for branding is going to go more in line with creating a competitive moat around your company. Okay, you're going to be creating a competitive moat, meaning that it's harder to compete with you over time because you're able to now make yourself aware in the community. However, you now know, based on everything we're talking about here, it's not a good short-term strategy where you can just go and deploy some money on Facebook ads and expect that you are then going to, go after 12 months and go, well, yeah, we spent $30,000 on those Facebook ads and they generated us $150,000. It's a 5x return on our money there. That doesn't really happen here. This is like a long play. You stack it up over time, build, and then maybe years down the road, you have so much brand authority in your territory where, it is, fitting into the customer journey with all the other things that you're doing. Okay, so here we're talking about if you're under $5 million a year, don't spend money on we're talking organic social media. You shouldn't be putting all your time, energy, money into that. Don't go hire some girl to go create TikTok videos and reels and all that stuff for you right now. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not a good use of your budget if you're under $5 million a year. You should be putting your money mostly into things that can actually compound and build short-term and long-term, not just long-term. Okay. And so water damage, let's talk about that a little bit more. Water damage, we're getting individuals to, come into our world Primarily 80% is going to be through some type of intermediary. Let's talk about the other 20% really quick. What do you have in terms of options there? Well, somebody could be going, I don't know what to do. I go to the internet, I type it in, and I find some companies and things like that. There's less than 20% of people in this industry, customers, actually do that, right? And everybody's fighting over the same spots. And it's a supply and demand thing, meaning like there's not a lot of people, that's the supply. There's not a lot of people searching on Google, to find a restoration company because they have water damage. There's not a lot of them. There's a little bit of them. And there's every single restoration company in your market is also on Google trying to capture and fight over those couple people who are doing that. Okay. Which means basic economics, supply is limited, demand is high. What happens? Cost significantly goes up. Okay. So what happens is you hit a situation where it costs you a lot of money to do that in terms of buying leads on the internet, right? And the more people bid it up and the more aggressive they get, the higher the cost goes. Okay. And some people are okay with it because they know that they can go out and they can allocate, $100,000 a year, to running online stuff, maybe 300, maybe 400, maybe $500,000 a year. They're allocating towards it. And they're having months where they're literally in the whole 50, 60 grand. They didn't even get enough jobs to cover it. But every once in a while, they get a whopper. They get a big job that pays for it all, right? And maybe pays for the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, so that does happen, and that's that is a strategy. If you've got a lot of money, long term, long runway, you can play that game. A lot of guys cannot play that game. A lot of guys are playing the game where they're like, I need a return on this within 90 days. I need a return on this within 6 months, right? And the challenge is that there's not a lot of things in this industry that can do that consistently, over and over and over and over again, and scalably, right? So like with the internet stuff, you can sometimes get it to work and it's profitable, but it's not scalable. It's not like, okay, cool, I do the math. Last year I put 100 grand into Google ads and I got $400,000 in jobs. Okay. This year I'm now going to put $200,000 in, and I will also get $800,000 in jobs. I'm going to double my spend and double the return I get from it. It doesn't work that way, because what happens, because there's such limited supply of people searching on these platforms, is you start trying to put in, double the ad spend to try to get double the results. The math doesn't math that way, because there's still the same number of supply. The supply doesn't increase, right? It's not like you're only tapping into a small percentage of supply and the supply is really this, but you're only tapping into this with that budget. That's how you find your budget is, are you tapping into the total available supply? Whereas most of the time with small budget, you can still be tapping into the total available supply. And then you go and try to expand your budget. Your budget went up. The supply did not go up, right? But your budget did. You're spending more, but there's not more leads. And this is what happens. This is why guys get frustrated. They give up on these internet things, right? Because it's not scalable, right? And so cool, you might bring in an extra, 100, 200K a year from internet leads. Maybe that pay-per-lead company is adding to that. Maybe the Google ads are. Maybe the SEO company. Maybe you're adding a little bit of revenue there, but a lot of it can't scale. And that's why the best thing you can do for your company is to tap into the other 80%, right? How do you get out to the market you're not tapping into? The other 80%. Well, what is the other 80%? It is referral partners. Is the person who gets the call before you do. Because back to over here, little Susie isn't in a hyper aware state where she's going to go, oh my goodness, it's finally that day I get to call the water mitigation company to come on in and save the day. No. She's going, man, I'm going to call the plumber. I'm going to call the realtor. I'm going to call this HVAC guy. I'm going to call the drain cleaner, whoever it might be, right? Sometimes, the toilet overflows, septic guy gets called. There's so many different referral partners. There's over 30 of them that we've identified by talking to companies in this space and just simply saying, hey, who has referred you a job in the last 12 months? We have an entire list of those guys. Long story short, that's the biggest portion of the market. Okay. Water damage, that's the game there. Okay. Mold remediation, this is different. Okay, this is not the same customer journey here, because the customer journey usually is going to start with some symptoms. Maybe it's a visual symptom. They look up and they see, mold spots and growth or something like that. Maybe it's a health symptom. Okay, but that then starts leading to a level of awareness. And for them, it's not an emergency thing like, oh snap, there's water damaging my home right now, I'm like in dire need, I gotta get this figured out, right? A lot of times, it's kind of this decision thing of like, okay, we should maybe learn, do I have mold, or is this dangerous, and they're searching on Google and stuff like that. And with Google, it's tough because a lot of times, is it a renter who's searching for something like that, and they're just trying to get their landlord in trouble, or things like that, so that one is a little bit difficult because with the cost per lead and what the job value might be, et cetera, et cetera. The search engine isn't always the best for mold remediation. However, I've seen it kill it a time or two in some service areas around the country with doing it through Google. But one of the things that I have seen with this, that is different than water damage, is actually using social media ads, Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. Because sometimes you can get people, based on speaking to their symptoms of things they're seeing or feeling, you can get them looped in through your ads, filling out forms, yada, yada. They need testing done still. You have a referral relationship with the testing company. The testing company goes out there, they refer the remediation side of it, right? It's a win-win-win. So, yeah, because the social media thing is it's interesting in this industry, because you got to imagine there's nobody going to their, walking into a home that's got water damage or fire damage going, oh my goodness, let me go sit on my couch and scroll and hopefully find a company that maybe can help me right now. Oh, if I only knew. Like, that's not the customer journey here. However, with mold, sometimes it does fit in there where they're like, yeah, I've got this issue, and it's maybe a little, there's some urgency to it, but there's like, okay, yeah, I'm starting to type things in on Google that reveals this, and then Facebook picks up on that, or Meta, and you start getting hit with ads going, oh, do you have these mold symptoms, and do you see mold like this, and this mold could be dangerous, da, 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 da. And you're bringing people in that way, and you're linking up with the testing company, everything. So that can work here, okay, for the mold remediation side. That's the one that's a little bit different. Okay, fire damage. All right, fire damage. This is kind of similar to water in terms of, most people are going to be sitting on their couch scrolling through the internet trying to hopefully figure out what's going on here. Um, you know, a lot of this is going to be TPA driven. It's going to be insurance agent adjusters. It's going to be authority, so like fire departments, chiefs, dispatchers. It's going to be a lot of that's going to feed this, right? And so again, most people don't sit around going, yeah, if my house ever burns down, I'm going to call XYZ restoration. That's not the game. You got to get in front of the people who are going to have their hand on that before you do, so that they can refer you, right? Reconstruction, I know recon is, I'm not going to get into it too much here, but it's the back side of these, right? And so ultimately, you're going to flow from the initial service into that on the back end, which increases the lifetime value. okay, and we can talk a little bit more about that as well. But you can afford to spend more to acquire a customer, your customer acquisition cost, when your lifetime value is higher, right? And so this is what a lot of private equity companies know, and this is why they're getting in this space, and they're going, oh my goodness, you used to only, everybody would come into the space going, yeah, it's simple, just get a van and a fan, right? And private equity guys are really, they're smart at business, so they come in here and they're like, dude, we got a bunch of guys who just, it's vans and fans, so we're going to beat them because we're numbers guys and we understand the game of business. So what they're doing is they're going out there and they're paying plumbers, $30,000 advances because they understand the acquisition cost on that guy as a referral source is way less than the lifetime value on the jobs that guy's going to refer. Math is mathing, and it makes sense there, right? Now, when you bolt on other services like reconstruction and packouts and contents, you know, you're increasing the lifetime value of the jobs that you're servicing here. Okay. So it can actually help you become more aggressive with your marketing because you can afford to spend more than somebody else to acquire a customer because you can increase the value of what that job actually means to you, right? I'll give you an example of this. If you've got somebody who's, let's say the lifetime value of what that customer's worth to them is, let's say, $100. Okay. And maybe they're like, yeah, I can spend $20 to get that customer to give me $100 with my margins, yada, yada. Like, that's a good deal for me. $20 customer acquisition cost, $100 is the value of that customer. Now, if somebody else comes along and they say, well, yeah, a customer to me is actually worth $1,000. I can spend $100 to get that customer. And it's the same exact target demographic as, let's say company A, who can only spend $20. Well, who's going to get smoked out in their marketing? It's the guy who can only, spend up to $20 to acquire the customer. This guy's like, I can spend $100 and it'll still be profitable to me, right? And this is what the main issue with all the online marketing and what's going on in this industry is the lack of understanding of this right now, because most people are trying to play a game where they're getting upset because they can only afford to spend $20 to acquire a customer, hypothetical $20, but they can only spend a little bit of money to acquire a customer when everybody else around them is moving in and getting the private equities coming in and all this, and they can spend way more money because the numbers, the way that their business is structured, it makes more sense for them. Okay, it's profitable for them. And I heard a quote a long time ago: the business that can spend more money to profitably acquire a customer always wins. They always smoke everybody else out, right? Because people can't afford to compete with them, right? Because now I can take over the entire advertising space and acquire way more customers than anybody else because you can't afford to compete with me, right? You can outbid everybody and all this, and it's hard out here, right? It's challenging in this industry, and it's getting more challenging because it's getting crowded and private equity's moving in and all of this stuff. When it gets challenging, you just have to be more creative. There's winners right now. There are people winning, but they're just doing things a little bit different. Okay. Packouts and contents. So with packouts and contents, again, this is downstream of this. This is a way to maximize the lifetime value. And I'm not a big fan of just, go bolt on a bunch of services into your company, because operationally that can be difficult, especially if you don't have, your standard operating procedures and everything you need built out to run a well-oiled machine operationally, to where you can scale and there's not a lot of issues. Don't get shiny object syndrome and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to go and I'm going to bolt on everything under the sun and do nothing well because I can't just focus on a couple simple things. Focus, master one thing, move on to the next, right? Do it as fast as you can as possible. Bring smarter people around you. Surround yourself with the smartest people in those different things. Don't let yourself be your own bottleneck to slow your business down from growing. Surround yourself with people who are smarter and better than you. Okay, so biohazard. This one is, it's an interesting. Biohazard, right? I mean, you can kind of lump in some others, I think, into this overall as well, like lead removal, asbestos abatement as well, into kind of like the specialty cleaning, auxiliary side of it. Most of the time, with those, kind of causes, the things that cause the person, the property owner, to seek out a solution. Most of them don't have a hyper awareness of like, oh, this happens every day. If you want to lose weight, well, what do? You get a personal trainer and you go to the gym. Or if you have a broken hip, what do? You go to the emergency room and you go find a doctor. If want to eat, you go to a restaurant. Like, these are just high awareness things. Okay, if you have lead, who do you call? If you have asbestos, who do you call? If you had a family member you know do something terribly harmful to themselves, and you got bodily fluids all over the place. Trying to keep this PG for YouTube here, but who do you call? Most people have never had that happen before, so these situations, you have to think through, like, who gets the call before you do, because not a large percentage of them are going to YouTube or going to Google and just typing in all these questions of like, who do I call, or what do I do, or this or that. There is a percentage, but it's smaller than you think. And the vast majority, they're calling somebody, and then that person first is going to show up first, and they're going to now control who gets the job, right? They are the lead source. And there's a ton of these people in your market. There's a bunch of them. Okay, so when I discovered all this, as I was looking through this industry and getting started and everything, I was like, you know what? Um, it makes sense why referral partners are the backbone of this entire industry. It makes sense why restoration companies pay a guy 60,000, 80,000 plus commissions or more, per year, to literally drive around, drop off donuts, and kiss babies and shake hands and drop off pens, and you know just build relationships with all of these people in their service area. It makes sense why, because these people that they're building the relationship with are the ones who come in contact with the job first. They're the ones who refer it. And if you own that relationship, you own the lead source, right? I'd rather own a lead source than rent leads. Renting leads, that's like, okay, once you're done paying your rent for it, it turns off, right? So it's like, go to Google, go to these platforms, and you're renting leads from them. But you stop paying, it's just done. It's gone. Google owns your leads. You're renting it from them, right? Versus you own this relationship with people, and they're a source for you. That one relationship can refer you 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 jobs a year, depending on who it is and what type of partner it is and all of that good stuff. So referral relationships are king. Every restoration company doing $10 million a year or more, that's not 100% just strapped to TPAs. They're doing this. They're doing referral relationships. Okay, if you this is another little marketing exercise I always do, to demystify what's going on. Is I go, okay, who is where I want to be? If I'm at, let's say, 5 million a year and I want to get to 10, well, who's at 10? And maybe who's in between, who's at 7, and what did they do to get to where they are? And I just start kind of, learning a lot. Like, I'm a big fan of go and learn everything about your competitor. Keep your enemies close, figure exactly what they're doing, and it'll tell you what you need to do, right? Now, unless they're building an unhealthy business, which is being tied to 100% of one thing, you don't want to be tied to 100% of your business coming from one plumber, or 100% of your business is coming from just TPAs, or all of your business is coming from a pay per lead source that is working really good today and it's not working well in another year and your business gets smoked out because of it. You want diversity, okay? You don't want key man risk based on having all your business tied up into one channel. So figure out what people are doing that are a little bit farther along from you, and it'll be really revealing. It'll tell you everything you need to know and do to get to the next level, and start modeling them, and sometimes what I've found too when I'm doing that is it's hard to figure out because you can kind of see what somebody is doing now. Maybe they're a $10 million company and they're doing it now, and you're like, oh, they're spending a lot of money on radio ads. Radio ads must be killing it. And it's like, don't go and start spending money on radio ads when you're a $3 million company. They're doing that as a branding play. That's long term. They got a bunch of extra money just sitting around that they can go and write off and throw out there and just put to work. And they don't need to see a return on that tomorrow, next week, next month, maybe even not even next year. They're playing the long game there. So don't model those things. Model the things that got them from your level to their level, not the things that are getting them from the level they're at now to the next level, right? So you have to kind of be able to have some common sense and thought to think through and decipher between those. But I hope this video was helpful to some folks. I'm just trying to demystify the marketing world out here so everybody can kind of understand this industry more, because what I really, really, really hate is I hate having conversations with restoration companies when they're going, yeah. I talked to a guy and man, they're doing something really interesting with this AI and the special softwares and things. And man, they got this guy. They're guaranteeing 30 jobs a month right now, or we don't have to pay him anything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that is scam, 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 scam written all over it. Why? There's nothing I can do to go and guarantee jobs in this industry. There's nothing anybody can do unless they've got a guy on the inside of a large commercial building, and that guy's going to go and tamper with some pipes, and we're going to get the loss from that. Or maybe he's got a special weather machine. Maybe he's got a way to just create floods out of thin air, and start flooding buildings in a really targeted way, only in your service area, right? Obviously, I'm kidding. None of that makes any sense. Okay, you can't control the flow and the demand of jobs in this industry. The only predictable measure we have against it is what the weather might do in a certain part of the country. Okay, outside of that, you've got to just position yourself. It's a positioning problem. You got to be positioned with the right people, the right referral partners that are getting in front of these jobs, getting their hand on the job before you ever even hear about it. Okay, that's the way to win the game. Okay, and it's a long-term strategy. You don't just go and get in with some referral partners today and bang, they're just pouring in a bunch of money tomorrow. I've seen it happen. I'm not going to say it will never happen, but it's not something that's going to happen for everybody all the time, everywhere. Okay, what I know will happen for everybody anytime, anywhere, regardless where they're at, conditions of the market, is if you build enough partners and you stack them up over time and you treat them well. Okay, you treat them well and you treat their customers they send you well, they end up just keep referring you jobs. And if you have enough guys doing that, you got a network of 100 people, 200, 300, 400 people in your area just referring you work all the time. Maybe one of them refers, 2 jobs a year. Okay, maybe another guy refers you 50 jobs a year. Maybe another one refers you 3, or 20, or whatever it might be. You stack enough of these guys up, you start getting out of the issue that this industry's in of, man, like when the weather rolls through, oh my goodness, we're so busy and we're just rolling in the dough. And then 2 months later, we're liquidating equipment and we're laying guys off, and I can't figure out why I just can't get consistent job flow, right? You have to have a wide net of people in your area who know that you're dealing with different types of jobs and are sending you and just flowing it into your company. Okay, this is what the guys are doing. When we've surveyed a bunch of these guys, we say, hey, how are you guys getting jobs consistently? Like, whereas a lot of these guys are complaining about inconsistent job flow. Oh, well, we use referral relationships. I'm talking about people who aren't tied to TPAs. That's a whole different thing. I don't even really talk about that much here, just because this last year, most people who were relying on TPAs just got smoked out. Claims were down 70% in certain parts of the country. In many parts of the country, it's only about 50. Revenue was down for certain companies by 50 to 70%. It's crazy. That can totally bankrupt somebody and just destroy their business. And a lot of those guys who had that issue were fully relying on just TPA work. So, anyways, hopefully you guys get some value out of this. I really hope that you can kind of see what's going on behind the curtain with the marketing world in this industry. If you guys want us to help you build a referral engine by having us actually go out and do the kind of the grunt work, like we'll go out there, we'll cold call, we'll email, we'll reach out to everybody in every possible way we can, just to scrub through all the no's and the hangups and the listening to the ringer and you know hitting the spam box and whatever it might be, to then finally get people who are like, yeah, sure, I'm interested in talking to you. And yeah, we'd like a referral relationship. And cool, can we have a meeting? And getting all of those types of responses for you and just tee them up and just throw them over. We'll just do all the grunt work for you like that. If that's what you want and you think that's valuable, you can come and join us here. We got about 200 clients right now all around the country. We work with you exclusively in your territory. We're not going to work with anybody else there. And we'll do a little bit of an interview and application here in the front end, make sure we're a good fit working together. And if so, we can get rocking and rolling, help you build out your army of referral partners in your territory so you can start dominating using this strategy. You can get out of this ebb and flow of the job cycle and relying on just one source and having good months and bad months, and just start getting into some consistency. You can run your business and actually control this thing. All right. God bless you. Appreciate you. Thank you. Talk to you. Bye.